I can certainly identify a lot with your team, with your theme today in this year's conference, Securing Our Future, Exploring the Possibilities. Because that is exactly what the government is doing across the province. It's been a bit of a bumpy ride due to the worldwide economic downturn. But as Albertans, we've been through these bumpy rides before. And really, when you look back at our history, the first settlers that came to Alberta, that had to tame the prairie, to the uncertainty that comes from a resource-based economy, from an agricultural economy that's dependent on weather. But, you know, there is something in the spirit, in the Alberta spirit, that relishes a challenge. And I know that many of you have come from families that have settled, 100 years before in this province. And we've seen issues come up in the province, but there's one thing that all of our families have seen is the natural advantages that are here in Alberta. And with hard work, we turned a lot of those advantages into opportunity. And that same spirit exists in Albertans today, and we don't shy away from the tough stuff. And when we encounter a problem, we don't sit and complain about it. We get together and we find a solution. And that is what rural electrification associations are all about. And for decades, REAs have been providing rural Albertans with reliable and affordable electricity. You are a true strong voice for not only your members, you're a strong voice for rural Alberta. And I once again, really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you a bit about your industry and government's plans for the future. Now, I know that Minister Leipert was here yesterday, spoke about the Alberta energy future, the plan, talked about a number of different issues. One of them is advanced metering infrastructure. I can tell you no decisions have been made, but we are committed to working with all stakeholders, and no decision will be made without the REA input, your vital voice, as I said before, and we're looking forward to your continued participation. As you have probably seen in the news, there is a lot going on right now in government. We have laid out a direction for the next year in the speech from the throne and the 2010 budget. And as I said before, we are not a government of extremes. And this year's budget is a measured response to the world economic downturn. It's the next step in our plan to put Alberta back in the black in 3 years, meaning balanced budget, rebuilding our Sustainability Fund 2012-13. The budget does reflect our need to watch our spending, but it also ensures that Albertans have the services they need today. Alberta was prepared for this downturn. We paid off a $23 billion debt, and we saved over $25 billion when times were good. And now we are positioning Alberta to lead Canada out of this recession. And I'm going to take just a moment, again, to reiterate the two savings funds that we have in Alberta. Because it's very difficult to get the message out in terms of what the two funds are. There was a fund put together in the province many, many years ago by former Premier Peter Lougheed, which is called the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund. That fund is intact. It's there for your grandkids and grandkids' grandkids. It was a value of $17 billion. We lost about 30% during the economic downturn. We're up to $15 billion. We'll be back to the original $17 billion, I'm sure, by the end of this year. The other fund is the Sustainability Fund. It's there to cushion the blow in revenue. And it's not any different than on the farm, where hopefully you can sell canola the odd year at 12 to 14, well, not 14, but 12 bucks. And next year you might sell it at 6. And you have to go to a reserve fund to cover off some of the drop in revenue. And that's exactly what we're doing in the province, so that we don't have to make, as I said before, rash, extreme decisions in terms of reducing the services that Albertans enjoy. The other is that in order to lead in the country of Canada and in North America, we have to compete. And we have to come out on top in a new global economy. And ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the largest economic global shifts ever in history. We have come through the longest period of continued economic growth over 48 consecutive quarters. very rare for economies to have sustained growth. Well, that has changed. And we've now seen close to 2 years of a huge economic downturn, and some of our best trading partners, especially the United States, are in deep trouble. So there are issues out there that we have to face. And as I said before, we have to tackle them, deal with them, look for new markets around the world, and aggressively pursue those markets. Because I can tell you, it's not to, shortly after breakfast to ruin your day, but there will be some issues in terms of dealing with the United States with a huge debt. Nobody knows where interest rates are going to be. Nobody knows where the inflation will be. Well, these are all of the factors that we put into the budget to make sure that we are at the right place in terms of the North American economy. And that is why the first bill that was tabled in this legislative session was the Alberta Competitiveness Act. In this sense, competitiveness is more than just a linear race to be at the front. It's about the whole, building the best Alberta. And it's from our hospitals to our communities to our industries. And it's not only talking about the cost of doing business and regulation. I'm talking about offering world-class services to Albertans and protecting our environment. It's about utilizing our resources efficiently to get the maximum effect. And for example, I'm sure you're well aware of the network of resource roads that crisscross the province. That's, of course, a real advantage. But, until now, it seemed that each industry, forestry and agriculture, oil and gas, that needed access to a plot of land, built their own road to get there. And you crisscross the province different ways. And I suspect that most people, certainly all of us here, would see that as a bit of a waste of land and resources. And that's why our government will be helping to coordinate that investment to new upgraded access, ensuring that industry and government work together. And that is all sectors. It's not just oil and gas, albeit very important, agriculture, tourism industry. It's very huge in the province of Alberta. And, of course, forestry. Although suffering a bit, but there are some positive signs of recovery. Now, what will this all do? Well, it will certainly improve access to natural resources. And I know that if you look at the country of China and India, in China alone, they have to build at least 23 million new jobs, create 23 million new jobs every year. More and more people have access to electricity. More and more people have access to a better quality of life. So you will see better demand for food and fiber coming from those countries. And it's very imperative that we open those markets and be able to access those markets with the proper transportation system. The other is with respect to the environment. We have to ensure that we are reducing the cumulative impact on our land. That is important because if you look at the province of Alberta, we are losing some of our best quality land to development. And, for many of us that have come from a farming background, there's something unique about the black soil, the deep, rich black soil. And, maybe a little too, maybe think about it too much, about the memories of, spring cultivation, etc. But, here again, we're about 3.6 million people. Our population is growing. Last year, 91,000 increase in population. We've got to have the plans in place so that we don't destroy a lot of the natural landscape that we have in the province. There are other strategies to ensure Alberta's competitiveness. It's pursuing markets that, for some reason, we've let slip through the fingers. I just came back from Abu Dhabi, and, I was eating Idaho beef. Idaho potatoes I've heard of, but I've never heard of Idaho beef.